Will your doctor kill you? Strange topic. Here's how I got onto this. I had a little bit of conflict recently on Facebook with a friend after I put up a post. The post was somewhat about carnivore, not directly, but he's obviously seen other carnivore posts that I put up. And his reply to the post was kind of anti-carnivore. Normally, I would just ignore replies like this, but because of the way he replied, I couldn't ignore it. And we'll get into what he said in just a moment. If you would like to be featured on this channel and tell your carnivore story, I would love to have you on. I'm quadrupling down on the number of interviews I'm putting out at the moment, and there's a good chance I could get to 1,000 interviews by the end of the year. But I need your help and your story. Send me an email to realzerocarb@gmail.com. Let me know your name, and we'll set up a time that works for you and get you on the channel. I'm looking forward to hearing from you. Okay, so what did my friend's reply say? So I made my post. It was just a meme talking about, sure, go ahead and trust your obese doctor and your malnourished nutritionist, right? It wasn't directly about carnivore, but he's seen my other carnivore posts, I assume, so he knows where I'm going with the posts I make. And I'm paraphrasing, but basically what he said is, yeah, diets can be fun, but it's important to get full nutrition. And normally I would have ignored this, especially if he'd said it in the way that I just read it. But he typed it in like this. Yeah, but a balanced diet is backed by science. Fad diets are fun though, but good nutrition always beats the gimmicky stuff. And this was like a red rag to a bull for me. And we had a bit of back and forth until the point that I said, look, I'm done. We're not getting anywhere. And during this back and forth, my friend was relying on information that he'd been taught in his nutrition studies classes in university. And just to be clear, this video is not about my friend. This video is about doctors. This interaction just made me think about doctors in this regard. You see, the way my friend responded is exactly the way most doctors respond. This is what I was taught, so carnivore diet equals bad, balanced diet equals good. Eat less, move more, calories in, calories out. And there's a fundamental issue with doctors that you will see in many other people in other professions. And just before we get into it, please help me get to 100K subscribers by the end of the year by clicking like and subscribe under this video. It costs nothing and it really helps out the channel. Thank you very much. So let's relate the way doctors work to working in an office. So you've got a manager. He's very focused on keeping his boss happy. So when his boss gives him orders, he takes those orders and he works out how he can break this down into tasks, and then he pushes those tasks to you and your team. That's typically the way things work. But you've got two types of managers. You've got a good manager and a bad manager. And let's say the manager's boss gives him a big project to work on. So the manager takes the project, he breaks it down, and then he delegates different parts of the project to different team members. Maybe one of those team members is you. And the task you've been delegated has a deadline of this Friday. And you realize that there's way too much work in here, and there is no way you're going to be able to finish the amount of work that's been given to you by Friday. The work you have to do relies on some other people finishing other types of work before you can get started on them. And it's just unrealistic. So what do? Well, you can sit on it and just hope that no one notices. But of course, it's going to get to Friday and you won't have the work finished, right? So you go to your manager and you say, hi, manager. You gave me this task to finish on the project, and it's got to be done by Friday. Unfortunately, I'm not going to be able to get it done by Friday. Here are the reasons. Now, the good manager we'll sit down with you and say, okay, let me understand the situation. Please explain to me why you can't get this done by Friday. And as you start to explain, and the good manager would say, this is very interesting. We hadn't considered these dependencies on the tasks that we'd allocated to you when we did this. We didn't realize that some of the work that you've been allocated wouldn't be able to be done until other people had finished their tasks. This is a really good point. Please, can you give me an estimate of when you would be able to get this work done, assuming that the dependencies you have get finished on time? And then the good manager would let you give the estimates, maybe get back to him by email, and he would take all that information and he would look at it and go, yeah, my staff makes a very good point about this. I'm going to go and talk to my boss and set expectations with my boss and tell him, we're going to have to delay this a little bit. There's no choice. Or we're going to have to do something to speed up the work that has to be finished before this team member can start their work. That's what a good manager would do. And the key thing here is the good manager listens, the good manager asks questions, and the good manager doesn't assume that they know the answer all the time. So that's three things. It doesn't cost much, and it makes staff respect you as a manager, but it's only three things. Be a good listener, ask questions, and don't assume you know the answer all the time. Or at least have the flexibility to go, I think I know the answer, but I could be wrong. Now let's turn this around and think about the bad manager in this situation. All right, so same situation, you're the staff member and you think, look, there's no way I'm going to be able to finish this work. There's dependencies here. I can't start particular tasks until other people finish their work. There's no way I'm going to get this done by Friday. So you go to your manager. He's the bad manager. And you say, look, boss, I'm not going to be able to get this done by Friday because of these reasons, blah, blah, blah. The bad manager thinks to himself, oh, I'm going to have to go back to my boss and push back and say, we can't meet the deadline that you've set. And that's going to make me look bad. And that's going to make me look stupid. And that's going to make me look not good in front of all my other manager peers. And the first reaction of the bad manager is to say, no, we worked this out. You're going to have to get this done. Friday is the date that it has to be done. And you say, but I can't because I've got dependencies and the work that I need other people to finish before I can start my work is not going to be done in time for me to start the work to get it done by Friday. And the bad manager will say, well, just work on what you can do now. And then as the other stuff gets done, you need to work harder to get that finished by Friday because we are relying on you finishing your work so we can get the whole project done on time. And there's probably going to be a bit more back and forth, right? But the problem here is the exact opposite of the good manager. The bad manager doesn't listen. The bad manager doesn't ask questions. The bad manager assumes he's got the best solution or he knows the answer. And, there's a fourth thing here. The bad manager is thinking, I can't show anything but complete devotion to my boss. I can't show that I'm questioning my boss, which if you can't question your boss, if you can't push back to your boss, you're a bad manager. But anyway, then we relate this back to a doctor. And this is exactly what we see with doctors. You've got good doctors who will sit there and listen to you and ask questions and try and work out what's wrong, not assuming that they might know, it could be this problem, could be that problem, but they're willing to listen and listen to all the context and try and piece together, well, maybe I think it's this, but maybe it isn't. Maybe there's some other things involved here. And then you've got the other type of doctor, like the bad manager, who doesn't really listen, doesn't ask questions other than cursory questions. What's wrong with you? How long's this been happening? And is stuck on what they've been taught. If a patient presents with this, that's what it is. There's no ifs, ands, or buts. That's what it is. There's good doctors and bad doctors. Just as there are good office workers and bad office workers, just as there are good managers and bad managers. But the difference between managers and doctors is that a manager is just bad. And maybe they'll have issues with HR. Maybe they'll have issues keeping staff in their team. Maybe, they're not going to get the results that other managers do with their teams because they can't manage people well. But with doctors, people's health is at stake. So, really, I think doctors should be listening. Doctors should be asking questions, and doctors should, of course, they've got their knowledge that they've learned over years of study and meeting customers, meeting patients at their clinic or at the hospital or in the emergency room or wherever. But they should be open to not just going, that's the answer. Tunnel vision. I learned that this thing is this. And it's like, okay, but ask questions. Be a little bit more like Dr. House, you know? Actually try and work out what the problem is. I'd love to hear your thoughts on this little rant. And if you want to see an awesome interview, check out this video next.